It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full forward.
He's taken a ripper! He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big guy.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
All thanks to Mequicare, proud partner of the VAFA.
Makes a name for himself with these long bombs from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Welcome along to For the Love of the Game. Thanks to Mequicare, looking after 16,500 Victorians each and every week since 1959. And it is Premier Men's Grand Final week. We've had our Premier B Grand Final, our Premier C Grand Final, our Under-19 Premier Grand Final, our Premier Women's Grand Finals. We're going to talk about all of those over the next hour or so. We'll look back at all those wonderful Grand Finals, and we will look ahead to the final game of the season coming up this Friday. It is Old Brighton and Old Scotch. So much to look back at, so much to look forward to as I welcome in Paddy Grindlay and Matthew Donald.
Three of the best words in the dictionary, Jason Bennett, Grand Final week. We have come to the last weekend of the VAFA season. What a year we've had, and I can't wait for the capstone on Friday afternoon. It's going to be Old Scotch taking on Old Brighton, a 2024 Premier Men's Grand Final rematch of sorts, and let's hope that it's going to be just as good a game as it was this time last year. Matthew Donald, hello to you.
Hello, Paddy, Jason, everyone tuning in. What a fantastic weekend of football it was across so many divisions, so many great games, close finishes, outstanding performances. And as you quite rightly pointed out, Paddy, we are exactly as we were 12 months ago. Premier Men's Grand Final between Old Brighton and Old Scotch at Elsternwick Park. It's going to be on for young and old, all roads leading to this, the final game of the season across all the VAFA competitions. Absolutely cannot wait. It is going to be an absolute beauty.
Well, one of the great William Buck Premier Men's preliminary finals was decided by the last kick of the day. Old Scotch broke Old Zav's hearts by just 1 point to keep their back-to-back dream alive and secure a second consecutive grand final clash with Old Brighton this Friday at Elsternwick Park. It was a healthy crowd in attendance, it was a wonderful atmosphere, and it was one of the best VAFA finals of the modern era. They went stride for stride all the way to the final siren. It was an epic preliminary final at Elsternwick Park. Turned out to be a 28-goal classic. Incredibly, it was tied at quarter time, 1 point margin at three-quarter time, 1 point margin at the final siren. Just a fantastic game of footy, Paddy. You were there.
Mate, it was one of the great VAFA games, and it was a lovely experience after the final siren, sort of soaking it up with everyone who'd watched it at the ground and in the function room and just getting all the feedback. Everyone was still in shock with the way that it ended up, which we're about to break down. But the quality of football was just of such a high class. I don't think you'll see any better local game of footy this year. And it's probably got a few VFL and AFL games licked as well. It was an unbelievable game of footy, that third quarter in particular, where Old Scotch came rocketing back into the contest. They kicked, I think, 5 goals in a row to take the lead, and then without any sort of interim period where the momentum was exchanged, the Old Zavarians flicked the switch themselves and they came rattling back in. So it was just one of the great games of local football, and hopefully it's going to be the same thing on Friday afternoon in the grand final.
Yeah, there's nothing between the two teams in the opening quarter. It was level at quarter time. They kicked 3 of the first 4 goals of the second term, did Old Zavs. They started to get a bit of territorial dominance, and then the Cards came up with the final 3 scores of the first half. So it was a 2-goal lead to Old Zavs at the half. Then after half-time, the Cardinals came out firing in the third quarter. They kicked 5 goals in 9.5 minutes of football. Angus Jones and James Tarrant kicked 2 goals apiece. The reigning champs found another gear. They went from 12 points down to 17 points up. At that point, Paddy, they were threatening to run away with the game, and you're thinking, wow, Scotch have got the legs here. They're going to run over the top of them. And suddenly it was Zabs needing to steady and respond, and they kicked 2 goals in a minute. Connor Dunn and Jack O'Sullivan got back within 4 points entering time on. Will Clark kicked a goal to make it 10 points late in the third term, and then 2 goals in 2 minutes to Hayden Woodhouse and Jack O'Sullivan once again back in front by a single point at the final change, and the stage was set for a grandstand finish.
It really was, and it was interesting speaking to both Daniel Ward and Hugo Higginbotham on our SEM broadcast about the side that felt best positioned to finish the game of footy, because we thought with that Old Scotch advance that this was one of the bursts that we've seen from them over the course of the season, where they're able to play 15 minutes of their best footy and flick the switch and win games in a burst. But with the Zavs coming back, we thought they'd perhaps steadied, but they just ran out of legs late. I think Dan Donati, and we'll get to his comments in a second, will feel a little bit unfortunate with the way it's gone. It's just been a year that has promised so much for the Old Zavarians, but through injury and through some lapses in key moments, it's just not quite been the year that they wanted to. It's a few things that are under their control, a few things that are out of their control, but I think Scotch just played the minutes. That's been how they've been able to get to this point. And we saw that in that final term.
Yeah, Zav's got out to a 2-goal lead on a couple of occasions, and both times you're sort of thinking, oh, this might be it then. We thought maybe it was Scotch that were going to break it open. Now Zavs are a couple of goals up. Maybe it's them. They one more goal and they can really crack this thing open. But that one goal never came. Every time they fell 2 goals down, Scotch managed to find another goal. So it was 11 points of difference still, though, at the 28-minute mark of the last quarter.
Yeah.
And we speak about the resilience of Old Scotch. They've played 5 elimination finals in a row. If ever you thought, they've rolled the dice one too many times and finally they've run out of gas. But they got the perfect centre break when they needed it most.
Yeah, I really felt with that Jack O'Sullivan goal where he ran in for the Zavs and he kicked it from the top of the square. I thought, well, this is the backbreaker, really. And
would have been 15 minutes, hadn't it, without a goal either way, and it felt like whoever kicks that next one, that might be it.
So that felt like a backbreaker. Next centre throw-up, and this is going to be a storyline for Grand Final week. It was Sam Grant in the ruck. He's the big V ruckman this year. He's had a superb year. By this point, Alex Spralia, done for the day, had left the ground with a hand injury, so Ed Delaney was rucking for the Old Zavarians. He did a stellar job, and I'll just say it here, that had the Old Zavarians held on, he would have been our Skins player of the game, purely for his effort against Sam Grant. And he had him pretty much, albeit from, you look at Sam Grant's stat line, it was a really impressive one, but he had his influence curbed a fair old bit, Ed Delaney, while hitting the scoreboard himself. But the one time where Grant really got away from Ed was that next centre restart. Grant's fisted it forward. The handball got loose to Tom Farah. He drilled the response goal, and then we're basically on a one-goal ball.
Yeah.
One goal
it was 10
ball game
seconds.
again.
I timed it. 10 seconds from the moment the ball left the umpire's hand. Gelbart ran onto the bouncing ball, handball to Farah. 10 seconds later, and it went from 2 goals back to 1.
And it was pretty much the only sequence throughout the entire game where there was a clear break through the centre of the ground. And unfortunately for the Zavs, it came in those critical final minutes. And then, as you say, Jace, we get to the final desperate few moments of this match.
And in the end, it had come down to one last foray for the Cards. It was 32 minutes gone. They're still down by 5 points. There was a throw-in 60 metres out at right half forward. Quick kick from the Zabs. Will Townsend intercepted it on the wing for the Cards. Kicked it long to about 30 metres out. Massive pack. Crum front and centre. Brodie Easton. Quick kick, threw it on his boot. High to the top of the square. Angus Jones swung onto his right boot. Grabbed the Crum. Snapped through his fifth from 20 metres out. And the Scotch fans behind the goals lost their minds.
Angus Jones, what a story. This is a man who, prior to the first semi-final against St Kevin's, his season high for goals in the seniors was 2 in a game. He kicked 3 in the first semi-final, was best on ground. He kicks 5 on preliminary final day, including the winner. It's a remarkable story as to where he's come from, and we'll be catching up with the skipper of the Cards, Andy Gelbart, and asking him a little bit about Angus Jones and his narrative. But I also wanted to shout out Charlie Cormack. He equalised the number at the top of the square. He had the one-on-one with the fat side winger in Campbell Lane. So Lane was parked underneath the footy. Cormack comes up. He nearly takes the mark himself, Cormack, knocks it loose of the grasp of Campbell Lane, and then Jones, Johnny on the spot as he was for the entire afternoon, Matty.
Just in that last 5 minutes, there's so many stories that I just find mind-boggling. The only clear centre clearance of the game came with Old Scotch with about 5 minutes to go. You've got Charlie Cormack, who spent 99% of the year in the back line, down at full forward evening contests in the last minute of the game. And Angus Jones, now, what you tend to get with teams when they get to this point in the season, they go deep in finals, you've obviously got your stars, but generally you get a couple of players who produce out-of-the-box performances and that you don't, from sources that you're not necessarily expecting. Now, Angus Jones has been a solid player for Scotch this year, but he's gone to a whole 11 in the final series. So he kicked 7 goals in the home and away season. He's now got 8 in 2 games.
He was our Skins player of the preliminary final, and Paddy caught up with him straight after the game.
It's not too often that you win your way through to a grand final. It's not too often that you kick the goal that wins your club through to a grand final. Angus Jones, congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Take me through that game of footy, mate. It was one of the great games of amateur footy I think that anyone's ever seen in living memory, and you kicked 5 goals. Previous to last week, your season high was 2, you kicked 3 in the semi, you kicked 5 on preliminary final day. Can I call you Mr. September? Is that going too far?
No, yeah, that's going way too far. I've just had a good couple of games.
He's a celebrity now.
Just had a good couple of games, but no, I think it's sticking to our confidence. Throughout the year, we sort of had ups and downs, but I think now that we've really hit that sweet spot, and going into finals, what a perfect time to hit that sweet spot. So yeah, I think it's just sticking to our confidence and our system.
As a player who wasn't there on grand final day last year and you watched your teammates celebrate that one, does it burn in your gut a little bit to try and get to that stage? And how do you feel now that you've got to the grand final? Job's not finished, obviously, but you must be feeling pretty good about life right now.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling great. I think last year watching from the sidelines was pretty tough, but I think to bounce back from that, that's what you got to do. And I think that, I think us boys, as I said, we were down this year. We had ups and downs, and now, we're reaping the rewards now. So it's amazing to be a part of it now. It's really good.
Take us inside the intensity of the game. Like, it felt so frenetic. The pressure was so high. By the end of it, it's just about no one could get set up because everyone was exhausted. It just seemed like one of the great high-pressure games of footy.
Yeah, definitely. I think both teams, especially Zabs, were really, really hot there. The way that they would work the ball out through hands is just something that you just need to sit back and go, wow. Even I was thinking, wow, like the way they were moving the ball. But I think our back six held up so well. Cormac down there, I could list them all. Like, seriously, they just really put their foot down and said, nah, we're getting it done, and then gave us forwards a chance, which was great.
And as a forward, you're working with some guys who have been outstanding on big days in September. James Tarrant, Will Clark were both excellent throughout last year. How's it been sort of getting used to their leading patterns and how they like to leap at the footy and what role you can play at ground level? Yeah,
definitely. It's something that I think you just have to, throughout the season, playing with them more often is the way to do it. But yeah, I think learning off them, they've been such good mentors, especially Clarkie. I've gotten really, really close with this year, and being able to, take a leaf out of his book and how he plays during September and all throughout the season as well. He's had just a dominant year, so I think, working with them has just been absolutely awesome, so it's great.
We'll see you here on Grand Final Day. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
He's one that all of a sudden Scotch are going to have to keep, the Tunners are going to have to keep a really close eye on Grand Final Day because he's proven in the last 2 weeks, if you give him an opportunity, he'll make you pay.
And it does match the storyline of 2024, Jace, as well, because before the 2024 final series, we didn't really know that much about the likes of Angus Simons and Will Clark, and it was Will Clark September in particular that's really put him up in lights.
So that made it a 1-point lead to Old Scotch at the 32.5-minute mark. The ball went back to the centre. And then importantly, they managed to chew up 25 more seconds before the final siren sounded. 2 more ball ups where they just piled numbers in and held the footy up in the middle of the ground. No one got an effective disposal away. So the siren then sounded, and Angus Jones's kick was literally the last kick of the day. There were no more clear disposals in the last 25 seconds. Total jubilation for the Cards. They pulled victory from the jaws of defeat. They're within 4 quarters of the most unlikely of premiership defences, given where they were 3 weeks before the finals. Utter devastation for Zabs. They lose their 5th consecutive top-flight final since 2016 by the barest possible margin to literally the last kick of the game. There's no worse way to lose.
You caught up with Dan Donardi across the week, Jace. He said there was no doubt that it was a great game for the Neutrals. Unfortunately, as the coach of the Old Zaverians, I don't think he enjoyed it that much. But Danny gave credit to Mark Natt and Old Scotch. It was a brutal game of football, he said, and a fantastic win for the Cards. He's very proud of his team for the way they played both finals, really. Sterling Phipps-Parsons went out with that shoulder injury and they fell away from the Tunners, but they pushed them for 3.5 quarters. They really put their whole effort into it. It was a really brave performance in both finals. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get a result. The game swung so many times, as we've spoken about. They had the 11-point lead, which we've broken down with a couple of minutes to go. You'd have thought they'd have done enough by then, but it wasn't to be.
Jeez, they've had a good year, though.
They really have. And it's just been, you go through second on the ladder, you give yourself the opportunity. But this, I think, is a trend now across probably the top few levels of VAF of Premier football, is that top 2 doesn't guarantee you a spot in the grand final. We've seen it happen to Old Ivanhoe. They went through as minor premiers and they got cleaned up by the team that came from third Caulfield Grammarians in the preliminary final. Different situation for the Old Zaverians, so getting done by a point.
Parkdale in Prem C are another example of that. So we've had it across the top 3 divisions, that one of the clear top 2s throughout the course of the home and away season hasn't been able to get to the grand final.
The positive that they're choosing to take out of the loss for the Old Zaverians, their reserves are into yet another grand final. So they'll be back here and cheering on their team on Friday afternoon.
Mark Natt from Old Scotch must have been absolutely delighted.
Yeah, he was reasonably pleased.
Mildly chuffed.
Yeah, he was just reasonably satisfied with it. Paid respect, of course, to Old Zavs and Dan Donardi, the coach, and the season that they've had. It's been an outstanding campaign, as we mentioned, from the Zavs. But also say that's one of the best matches of football that you'll see at any level. A terrific advertisement for the game. They had to make some changes at halftime, though. So Zavs controlling the clearances and the contested ball in the first half, and they had to make some adjustments and responded with a 6-goal third term, which helped really get themselves back into the contest again. Loved the last few minutes, as you might expect, of the match. He said that the final 3 minutes will go down in Old Scotch's history. So that's sort of where this sits in the grand scheme of Old Scotch. And they've been around for a very, very, very long time. The spirit and the belief in the group that they showed in those few moments, he made a real point of acknowledging. But now the focus turns to another grand final against Old Brighton. And the message he sent to us, the last 3 words, bring it on.
Which was the same message he had last week, and that seems to be their philosophy over the last 5 weeks. Double down. Let's go again and again and again. Do they have one more in them? We'll find out this Friday our grand final preview and tips coming up later in the show. As we continue for the love of the game, next coming up is our Premier B grand final review with Paddy.
Hey guys, introducing GYG's $12 chicken mini meal. It's the ultimate value bundle. A mini chicken burrito or bowl, medium Chipotle seasoned fries, and a bottle of water or a soft drink of your choice. It's cheaper than cooking at home. Love ya.
Tickets are on sale now for the William Buck Premier Men's Grand Final Day function. Friday, September 26th in the function room at Elsternwick Park. Enjoy the biggest day on the amateur footy calendar with a delicious sit-down lunch and hear from the grand final coaches ahead of the big match. Tickets are available now at vafa.com.au.
The biggest day on the amateur footy calendar is almost upon us, with thousands to descend upon Elsternwick Park for the William Buck Premier Men's Grand Final. Friday, September 26. Get along to VAFA HQ and enjoy your public holiday with some elite suburban footy. Will it be Old Brighton winning their first top-flight premiership at their fourth attempt? Or will Old Scotch go back-to-back for the first time since 1934? Opening bounce 2:30. Tickets are available at the gate. The William Buck Premier Men's Grand Final. Be there as history is made. This is For the Love of the Game, thanks to Meckwell Care, helping 16,500 Victorians every week since 1959. Let's talk Premier B, and an amazing season, Paddy. We've raved about it all year, and rightly so. Came to its conclusion on Saturday when Old Trinity took on Caulfield Grammarians in the Premier B Grand Final. Both these teams guaranteed to go up to the top flight next year. This one was about the silverware. How did it play out?
You're spot on, Jason. You speak to a lot of coaches across the Premier B competition, and this year it was Old Ivanhoe and Old Trinity pretty much from halfway down, swapping positions inside the top two, first to second. But a lot of coaches would say that Old Trinity have been the most consistent team of the last two seasons through 2024 and in 2025. Therefore, it was a little bit surprising that they won the grand final, their first since 1999, in a burst of great football in the second term. They kicked 7-2 at Trevor Barker Beach Oval. Their tools were magnificent. Eventually, Harry Thompson was named best on ground, but it was in the second term where he gave his mids the best use of the football. He and Dom Payman, Boston Dowling, Hugh Beasley, all playing together in these last couple of games and finding the perfect mix at the right time of the year. That's where they took the advantage over Paul Satterley's Caulfield Grammarians, and they went on to win the premiership. 12-11-83 to 10-11-71. There was a little bit of a comeback in the second half from the Fields. The Tees only kicked one goal in the second half, and
amazing.
The Fields did come charging back. That has been the story of their season. They've been excellent when they've had their backs to the wall and they've had to fight back, especially when they've had the favour of the wind that typically blows at their home ground at Glen Huntly Park, but they just started a little bit too far back. They didn't quite have the scoreboard pressure early in their dominant periods, and the Tees' defence was excellent in stifling their usually quick ball movement to their forwards. So a big congratulations to Donald McDonald, Old Trinity Footy Club, everyone down there. They've done such a terrific job for the last couple of years. I think it's fitting, Jace, that they won the grand final at Trevor Barker Beach Oval. That was the site of their heartbreaking preliminary final loss of 2024, where it was the fingertips of Luke Healy that denied them elevation to top flight for 2025. They return to the scene of the crime and they get it done. So Donald McDonald, in his very typical way, I asked him, how did you feel at the end of the game, the final siren? What were your reaction? And he said, oh, well, at least I've just done my job. So that's pretty much what you can expect from a man like Donald McDonald. He just turns up, he tries to do the best that he possibly can, and he was just happy for his players, the volunteers, and the rest of the coaching staff.
And speaking of Donald McDonald, the premiership coach joins us now on For the Love of the Game.
No, thanks, Jason and Matty and Paddy.
How does that sound, the premiership coach of Old Trinity, Donald McDonald?
Yeah, no, it's been a long time. So since I've been called one of those, so it's been, good few days, mate, and just a relief, actually, just to finally bring the season to an end with the premiership. It's just, really satisfying.
We always talk about wins and losses are important, but they fade over time, Donald. It's the memories and the relationships that you get along the way, and things like premierships help set those in stone, and you knew that so well throughout your entire footy journey, obviously even back to the Werribee days. First senior premiership the club's won this century since 1999. What's it meant to the people around Old Trinity, particularly those who have been there for such a long time and ridden the good times and the bad?
Oh, look, it's been a very well-received victory. And I think it's interesting, like when I first came back to the club in 2023, Luke went to the school and I knew a lot of the boys that were there because he'd had a few of his mates that were still playing there, and they'd been through some tough times, and I think there'd been a little bit of a disconnect, and that's what COVID did with a lot of organisations, and I think that there was a disconnect between the past and the present, and the great thing about the last couple of seasons has been the fact that, we've been able to really reconnect with a lot of our past players. Even on Thursday night, there was a reunion from the 1985 B grade premiership. I think it might even be C grade premiership, but
it was Division 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So those guys, it's really, and when you have a bit of success, it's easier for people to get on board. So I think the challenge for the footy club now is to capitalise on the interest in the club, and then really try and get some real solid relationships going with a lot of our past players and the school. I mean, I think the relationship with the school has come along in leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. And again, I think that was severely impacted throughout the COVID years and a change of personnel off field. So yeah, you know what it's like. You can't take your eyes off the ball, because with the beautiful premiership in B grade comes the daunting prospect of performing A grade.
Yes, that's your reward is to take on the very best teams in the competition.
Yes, mate. There's no beautiful financial reward. It's one of those things where you go, boys, good luck. So, and look, that's good. I mean, I had 3 years with old Scotch, and I've been able to sit down. We came up from B grade. Interestingly enough, Caulfield grammarians, really thrashed Scotch in 1999 in 2019 in the B grade grand final, and both teams went up. And I've no doubt without COVID, Scotch would have got relegated in that 220-221 year, so, and it took us till about 222 where we started to get some traction and won about 8 or 9 games, and with what the club's been able to do under Natty and the boys down there, it's been fantastic to sit back and watch.
So what do you do to prepare for A grade now, D-Mac?
Well, I think the number one thing is retention. I mean, funnily enough, Paul Satley is a good mate of mine. I mean, I've coached Sats for about 5 years when I was coaching Werribee, and he won a Liston trophy, and, I've followed his career over the journey, and we're having a chat before the game. I said, well, it's funny, this is really like round one Premier League next year, because we're both going up to Prem A, and we're both earned the right to go up, and it's our first look at what Prem does look like, because we're playing against each other. And I think for me, the number one thing really is going to be retention. We need to keep as many of our players as we possibly can, because people, I've heard of stories of clubs that have gone up, and everyone's been so satisfied with winning the grand final, especially a lot of older guys, they move on. And because they felt, A grade's a bit of a stretch, and best to get out now, So that'll be our first priority. And the other thing we're going to do is just keep really solidifying, our standing off the field. We've got a lot of hard work to do in ensuring that we can raise the money to provide resources for our players to prepare to the best of their ability. I think they're the two things we'll really worry about first and foremost. We've put a lot of effort into our 19s. Like our 19s this year at times really struggled to get a team out on the park, and again, the relationship with the school has been paramount, and we feel we're getting a little bit of traction there. And 3 of the boys played in the last 3 or 4 games with us, which was really good, and played in the reserves finals, which was terrific experience for them. So, hopefully those little things just help us, in our preparation to go into A grade.
Dono, look back to last year where I was calling you every Monday and tracking your journey up to a preliminary final where you came really close. How tricky was it to make sure that your club maintained the rage, I suppose, through the off-season, through the summertime, and then through this season, not, I don't want to say wasting an opportunity, but continuing your forward momentum and not letting the prelim loss of 2024 knock you?
Well, I think, we're all pretty realistic. You lose for a reason. I mean, last year we defeated Old Highway and D-Lar at their grounds in the first 3 rounds, and then when we played both sides in the middle part of the year, they both really beat us pretty well on our ground, on a big ground, and they just muscled up and were too physical for us. And then, we were able to get a bit of momentum in that final series, and we're like a fingernail from getting that shot on goal that Sammy Phillips had the last minute mark go through A grade, but I think it was good because we lost for a reason. We really ran out of gas in the last 10 minutes of that game, and it was apparent that we just weren't fit enough to be able to really see it through. And that was just to win a prelim, let alone win a grand final. So, and we all know how good old Holbury were last year. So we still had a lot of work to do, but again, we just had to make sure that the players were keen and would commit to their training, which they did. Obviously, like every other club, we had a lot of players that go away and injuries and unavailabilities and all those sort of things, So, but, we got through it, and we really, finished top 2 was huge, because I always thought that Caulfield and Carey were like dangers, even like old Camberwell and Willie, they were good sides coming into the finals. They were all in really good form. So I just thought, geez, if you lose that second semi and you get vulnerable because you come up against a side like we were last year who had a win and are up and about, so to win that second semi was gold. And, but the job wasn't done. We really needed to win it. And we did it. So fantastic.
Win it, you did, and you did it in style. Donald, congratulations, mate. Absolutely delighted for you. Couldn't be happier for you and the club. And best of luck with player retention and a chance to refresh and get set for A grade in 2026.
Yeah, no worries, boys, and thanks for all your support during the year. I said to Paddy earlier, you guys do a fantastic job covering the VAFA. I think we're really fortunate with the exposure we get. So great stuff, and I look forward to catching up next season.
The VAFA's Night of Nights is just around the corner. Join us at the VAFA Awards Night as we celebrate our league best and fairest winners, induct our newest life members, and present the premiership flags. Wednesday, October 8th at the Lakeside Pavilion in Albert Park. Get your tickets now at vafa.com.au.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
This is For the Love of the Game, thanks to Mecwa Care. The Premier C Grand Final was Sunday at Trevor Barker Beach Oval. Beaumaris taking on Ajax, and leading the call for VAFA Media was Matthew Donald. Matty, what did you make of it?
Oh, well, it was a terrific contest. It was a really even contest, actually, between these two sides. Beaumaris hadn't lost the game since round 3, so they were going for 17 wins in a row, and Ajax were the miracle story. Sort of limped in to the final series, lost their last 3 in the home and away match, held off St Bede's in the semi-final in a really close game, and just played Parkdale off the park in the preliminary final. So it was a really interesting matchup coming into it. Beaumaris had won their last 14 against Ajax, dating back to 2011 between these two sides.
Wow, what a great stat.
Yeah, and it was the Sharks
who... not if you're Ajax.
Well, no, if you're Beaumaris, it was a good omen. And the Sharks started really well. They kicked 5 goals to 2 in the opening term, off the back of Matthew Harms, who got things going really early there for the Sharks with 2 in the opening term. Tom Spencer playing his first game back in the side since round 9, got in on the act early with a couple of goals. And Ajax was struggling a little bit, certainly on the back foot, to have to deal with the pace of Beaumaris's ball movement. Charlie Wills started like a house on fire in defence. He was intercepting everything that came inside attacking 50 for the Jackers. He finished the match with 8 intercept marks. It was an absolute clinic down back for him. Over the course of the next 3 quarters, the rain teased, and I thought that was going to play into the hands of the Jackers, who are very much a contested ball clearance winning side. And they did slowly manage to get their way back into the contest, and they got it back to a couple of kicks just before halftime. But Tom Spencer again with a mark that may or may not have been taken after the halftime siren. It was eventually paid, much to the frustration of Lockie Buzzard, who was right in front of us down on the bench. That put the margin out to 20 points at halftime. And that's where it was at 3-quarter time as well. So in both the second and the third terms, both teams had their periods where they were on top, but neither were able to really make that clear, decisive breakaway from the opposition. But eventually the Sharks pressure told in the final term, and they kicked the first 2 goals of the last term, and eventually kicked clear a lead of in excess of 6 goals at one point. The Jackers got a couple back in the end to make the scoreline a little more respectable. About 21 points was the final margin, and really that's where it stayed for the course of the day. It was that first quarter that really set things up.
It was 7 goals to 6 after quarter time, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was a really even 3 quarters, but the Sharks off that fast start always had just enough to be able to keep the Jackers at bay. Charlie also mentioned earlier he was best on ground in the end, just ahead of Matthew Harms and Tom Spencer, who each kicked 2 goals. The ruck battle was really fascinating between Heath and Roble. Both were excellent. Heath probably just edged the points ahead of Roble at the end, but a very close battle for them. And for the Sharks, that's their first senior premiership since 2016. Their first in C grade since 2010. So quite a historic day for them. And for both of them now, they go up to Prem B next season. And based on what we've seen throughout the course of the season for the finals, that they'll be more than competitive in the step up next year.
So Beaumaris winning at 12-9-81, defeating Ajax 8-12-60 to take out the 2025 Premier C flag. And joining us now is the premiership captain of Beaumaris, CAL LINEHAN. Cal, congratulations.
Appreciate it, Jace. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, what a season it turned out to be. You lost 2 of your first 3 and never lost again.
Yeah, it was a good turnaround. I think it was round 3 where we'd got absolutely smoked, in fairness, against Parky. And yeah, since then we haven't lost. I think it was a massive turning point in our season, which is very good, and good to get the reward at the end of it as well.
What were the keys to success? What were the 2 or 3 things you put your finger on to say, hey, this is how we managed to win 17 in a row and win the flag?
I think you look through our team and there's plenty of talented footballers, but at the start of the year, we probably weren't gelling well as a team. So we had a big focus from around that point of the year of getting around and celebrating the team max. I think was probably our biggest shift. So I think from that stage of the year, we'd probably just playing somewhat as individuals, but once we had that shift, I think that really allowed us to sort of gel well as a team.
Callum, congratulations on the win. Now, I was there on Sunday at Trevor Barker Beach Oval. It was a terrific contest between the two of you, Beaumaris and Ajax, but it was a 5-goal opening term from your boys, and off the back of Matthew Harms, who had a great start, must have been, as a fire starter, kick 2 in the opening term. It must have been really beneficial to have someone up forward who could give you that bright spark really early on in the game.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And it's something we've probably had a few games this year where we haven't kicked that accurately for goals. So I was very, very pleased at the end of the first quarter and even throughout the whole game that we started the way that we did and made the most of our opportunities up forward.
It's been an incredible 12 months, Cal, for you. You've certainly ridden the highs and the lows of footy, and obviously your football club losing Bianca and Holly over the summer and the depths of despair that were attached to all of that. And then somehow out of the other side, Beaumaris as a football club and an organisation and as a community, as a family, have got stronger out of that. And you skip at the big V to that incredible win throughout the year. Now you're a premiership captain. The team's going up to B grade. It just shows, doesn't it, just how the highs and lows of life, you've just got to sometimes roll with the punches and your footy club's somehow come out of this horrible period even stronger.
Yeah, definitely. It's something I've been really proud to be a part of. I think how the club's responded to the tragedy there that happened over the summer, and I think the way that the women's team have been, this whole year, I think it's brought the whole club a lot closer. With the new game that we have now for the Shining Bright for Holly and Bianca, I think the way the club's responded there, and then to be able to, go through the whole year and to be able to finish off with the premiership, yeah, it's pretty surreal.
No, and it's a great credit to you and the football club, Callum, that as a community, not just in terms of on and off the field, that you've been able to achieve what you have over the course of 2025. As Jason mentioned as well, though, attention now turns to Premier B. Obviously, it's still only a couple of days since you've won the premiership, but that challenge of competing in the next division above, how are you feeling about that? Is it excitement? Is it a bit of trepidation? What's the overriding sense of emotion when you think about going up to the next grade?
Yeah, I'd say it's more excitement than anything. I've spent most of my time playing in Bowie, has always been in B. This is my first year down in C, so I think it's judging by the group that we have at the moment. I'm confident that we can give it a really good go. And you look at the sort of ambition I think that we have at the club. I think there's, a desire not to just hang around in B grade, but to, be towards the pointy end of it as well and give ourselves the best chance of going back to back.
And more personally, Cal, I was listening into the coverage and Harrison McElwain was speaking to you shortly after the final siren. He asked you a bit about your journey through the year and through the last couple of years and became quite emotional talking about what this club means to you. What does this premiership specifically mean to you to lead your club to this great success?
And I think in that interview I actually dropped the F-bomb there, so I probably should.
You may have, but that's okay. Well. That's all right. We'll allow you one.
If you're ever going to drop one, it's after winning a flag, Cal. You get a free pass.
Yeah, you're right.
I apologise on your behalf, Cal.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, I think it was just really special. I just remember turning back and looking at the group and just seeing everyone. There's a lot of people that I'd played footy with maybe 10 years ago when I first came through to the seniors. A lot of family, a lot of friends. That sort of thing, to just have everyone around, I think it was really special. Just to be able to do that. And there's plenty of mates that I've played years of footy with. It was for Cal Heath's 150th, which I reckon I've played in the majority of them. James Taylor had his 150th the week before, who I've played with since about under 10s, under 11s. So to finally get a premiership with those guys that have been playing footy with for over in a day was, unreal.
You only just got relegated last year. It was by less than 2% from Caulfield to drop down to Premier C. And as you said, you spent most of your life at Beaumaris in Premier B. Do you feel like you guys now are better equipped 12 months on, Cal? Have you added extra layers to what you have there?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've been a much better side this year. Naturally, we get an extra year into a lot of the younger players, but I think we've just had a lot more consistency in terms of the team that we've been able to put out. Last year, we were really struggling with the combination of injuries and also just a lot of people travelling to Europe. It was one of those years that we had at Beaumaris. So I think this year, with the addition of a few new extra players that have come through the juniors and the 19s, I think it's been a good thing for the group, really. I think it's probably the reset that had to happen, and then hopefully next time we can give a real good crack in Prem B next year.
And one other player we didn't mention who dropped a lot of magic without actually swearing was Charlie Wills, who was named best on ground. He had 18 touches. He intercepted pretty much everything that went inside attacking 50 for Ajax, particularly in the opening term, and pulled off a number of really dangerous kicks that hit the target and launched a lot of counterattacks. What a great asset he is to your backline in terms of winning the ball back, but then also setting up plays further afield.
Yeah, he's one of those people you just absolutely love playing with. Last year, he was probably spending most of his time forward, and I was begging Berkey just to bring him back, because every time we played down there, he was always just pretty much doing what you saw on the weekend. The good thing with Wilsey, and unfortunate for me when I wanted him as a backman, he was also playing well up forward, but I think this year he's had a lot more consistency. I think he's played every game down in the back line. He's just been unreal to watch. Like what you saw on the weekend isn't a rare thing at all for him. It's something he does week in, week out. He's a star.
Cal, congratulations on an incredible 2025. Big V, victorious skipper in that unforgettable game up in Bendigo. Now you're a premiership skipper at Beaumaris as well. Years don't get much better than the one you've just had. You fully deserve it. Congratulations.
I appreciate it, Jace. Thank you very much.
The biggest day on the amateur footy calendar is almost upon us, with thousands to descend upon Elstonwick Park for the William Buck Premier Men's Grand Final. Friday, September 26. Get along to VAFA HQ and enjoy your public holiday with some elite suburban footy. Will it be Old Brighton winning their first top-flight premiership at their fourth attempt? Or will Old Scotch go back-to-back for the first time since 1934? Opening bounce 2:30. Tickets are available at the gate. The William Buck Premier Men's Grand Final. Be there as history is made. This is for the love of the game, thanks to Mekwacare. Time to talk Premier Women's and our Premier Women's Grand Final. Well, it was always going to be tight. We spoke to both the coaches last week. They were fully expecting to be tight. The entire final series had been ridiculously tight and even. And sure enough, Matthew Donald, Old Scotch and Caulfield Grammarians didn't let us down.
No, it didn't. We were expecting that this was going to be a very, very close game between the two, and it lived up to the hype. At quarter time, it was Caulfield who'd kicked the only goal of the opening term with a 7-point lead over Old Scotch, 1-2-8 to 1 behind. Then Scotch got on a bit of a run. They kicked 3-1 in the second term to take a 4-point lead into halftime. Then kicked 1-6 in the third term. The premiership quarter set up a 16-point lead, extended it out to 17 early in the last term, but then it had to hold off an almighty scare from the field who kicked 2 goals in the space of a couple of minutes, drew it back to 5 points, but that's where it stayed. Scotch holding on to win their second consecutive Premier Women's Division premiership. Last year they did the job over St Kevin's, doubled their score that day. It was a much tighter affair this time around, but just getting home. Final score 4-9-33 Old Scotch, Caulfield Grammarians 4-4-28.
And the thing about this game is that you knew that Caulfield were going to come storming back because they'd done it 2 weeks earlier in the second semi-final. They were 25 points down that day and came back and ended up falling a goal short. This time around, they weren't as far behind, and you're thinking, you know what, there's no reason why they couldn't run over the top here. Had their chances late, Paddy. It was a desperate last 10 minutes.
Well, it was at the right end of the ground for the last few minutes of this game of footy. It was at the Caulfield end. It was stoppage after stoppage on the forward flank, and you could see the Stars players. I reckon there was 23 real minutes elapsed, so the siren could have been sounding at any second, and they were just trying to nest the footy. Hold it in. Do not let it into open space. They did a wonderful job. Just going through this final series, we have 4 games decided by 8 points or fewer.
Yep.
That really gives you an indication about how this competition has really tightened up at the top end. For a couple of years there, it was, I don't want to say a boat race, but St Kevin's seemed to have a Monty on grand final day and they were winning plenty of flags. But Old Scotch and now Caulfield and even Kew have really come into consideration over this year in particular. But ultimately the siren sounded with Old Scotch holding on to a 5-point victory. And their best player on the ground, we're about to catch up with JORDY MIFSUD, who was absolutely outstanding. She's had a stellar year, 2 goals for the number 44 on grand final day.
Joining us, the best player on the ground from Old Scotch, JORDY MIFSUD. JORDY, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Back to back. It's a wonderful achievement. Firstly, winning it last year was exciting, and then to go through this year again as a team and for Old Scotch to win back-to-back titles and just frank what was done in 2024 and firmly establish yourself again in 2025. What's that meant to you and the group?
Yeah, it's obviously, really special to be able to go back to back. And I think that's something that's a bit of a benchmark for our team now and club, is to continue to build on that success that we've, had over a number of years now in different divisions. Be able to, top it off back to back in Premier Women's against some, elite competition is, very special. But obviously that kind of doesn't happen without a really, great club environment and just great people involved as well. So, just super proud of the girls and the effort that we put in both pre-season and during the season as well.
Speaking of elite competition, with Caulfield Grammarians rising up into the mix this year, into the premiership mix alongside you guys and St Kevin's, is this the most competitive season of Premier Women's, do you think, that's been played in the VAFA?
Yeah, I think so, and it's been great to see their development, particularly, from in the last 12 months from where they were kind of in the prelim against us last year. It's definitely, good for the competition and good for us to continue building as a group as well to, have some stronger teams out there really putting up to us week in, week out. It's exciting to see and exciting for the competition and the fans and supporters as well.
Now, I was watching this one play out in its final minutes and it was pretty desperate contested stuff along the half-forward flank as you guys are trying to hold on and cling on to your lead. How were those final few minutes of the game?
Oh, the most stressful few minutes I reckon I've ever played in a football game, I think. Yeah, I knew that they would continue bringing it to us like they did in the final a few weeks ago. We know they come home really strong. So I had a lot of confidence in our girls to really just lock in and do what we needed to do. I think, we've been in some really tight games and played in some, grand finals previously. And, I think I just, had a lot of confidence in our girls to be able to push through those nerves and just, focus on what we could kind of control. And, to come away with that when we knew that they were pressing really hard was, it was a good result, but very, very stressful. I was, in a lot more stress than maybe I seemed, but I knew I kind of had to act cool and calm for the younger girls just to give them, a bit more confidence to just kind of, carry out the last few minutes. And it was, nerve-wracking not really knowing how much time was left. For sure, but got there in the end, so it's all that matters.
I think you players did a really good job at maintaining at least the poker face. The camera went on the boundary to your coach, Dean Anderson, a couple of times. He certainly wasn't
not quite so poker-faced.
How was he afterwards? Because he seemed like his heart rate might have been sitting in the high 190s, I reckon, for a few of those passages.
Yeah, for sure. No, Dean's he's an emotional guy, which is, I think, great for our group to be able to see, a man of his age just showing a lot of passion for us and our success. And yeah, he's definitely not one to hide it for sure. So I'm glad that at least we were stuck on the other side of the boundary where we couldn't be too close to him and the other coaches stressing on the sidelines. But yeah, no, he's a great person to have at our club, and he's very highly respected from all of us involved. And yeah, he was quite emotional, as you'd expect after the game. But I think we've given him a few heart attacks with a few close games against Caulfield previously. So I think he's kind of used to it. We do, definitely make it harder for ourselves. But it's obviously, great to watch that level of competitiveness right through to the final siren.
I think I know who I'd rather play poker against with some of those faces that the players and Dean was putting together. Jody, we've spoken a lot about the last half of the last quarter in particular, and when you've touched on it, you've referred to a lot about the mental side of it, about keeping calm and not panicking. What do you think in terms of the way that the team played that was most important in that time that held you in good stead and was able to allow you to protect that lead?
Yeah, I think just drawing on our experience and probably more of our experienced players to try to, I guess, settle everyone and make sure that, we were in front and it was ours to kind of lose at that point. So I think, just, I guess, getting around girls and really emphasising, what our plan was, particularly in those moments, to just lock the ball in and try not to, be undisciplined and give away easy free kicks to them. I think just, mainly just drawing on that experience and trying to remain, positive and calm and, just spread that across the group. I think that was kind of our key focus.
It was just a phenomenal final series in the end, Premier Women's. 4 games decided by a total of 25 points. 8 points, 6 points, 6 points and 5 points. Jordy, to come out on top, congratulations to you and your team. It was a wonderful performance. Back-to-back premiers. And now, excitingly, a chance for the boys to try and do the same thing and go back-to-back in both Premier Women's and Men's 2 years in a row. What an achievement that'd be.
Yeah, it's pretty special, isn't it? And I think that just speaks volumes about the club that Old Scotch is and, the environment that they've created there for a long time now. And obviously, we've achieved some success previously last year. And, it's just great to see, the guys come through some adversity as well. They were almost getting relegated a few weeks ago, let alone making finals and now making another grand final. I think it's, a really incredible and really exciting time to be part of Old Scotch Football Club for sure.
We appreciate your time. Congratulations once again on a super season and a stellar performance in the grand final, Jordy. Well done. We couldn't be happier for you.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
4 other grand finals across the weekend that we all want to celebrate and congratulate the winners. The Holmes-Glen Under-19 Premier Men's was a wonderful final series, and Old Brighton victorious once again over St Kevin's, a little bit more comfortable than it was last year. It was a 4-point thriller in 2024 in the grand final. This time around, they won it by 18 points. Old Brighton 9-7-61, defeating St Kevin's under lights at Elstonwick Park 6-7-43, the final margin. 18 points. Also 3 reserves grand finals over the weekend. Congratulations to Fitzroy, who won the Premier B men's reserves competition. Fitzroy 8-10-58, defeating Old Trinity 7-8-50. In Premier C men's reserves, it was Parkdale Vultures 10-11-71, defeating Beaumaris 4-6-30 by 41 points. And then in the Premier Women's reserves competition, Old Scotch did the double. Old Scotch 4-2-26, Caulfield 1-5-11. This is truly a golden era for Old Scotch in both the men's and the women's.
It's remarkable. The only thing that they might be missing out on at the end of 2025 is the men's reserves premiership, because they've got both Premier Women's flags. They might have the Premier Men's flags if it works out for them on Friday afternoon. Just unable to do the... I don't know what you would even call that, because you can't call it... Is it
perfection,
quadruplet? I'm not quite sure.
Perfection, I think.
Yeah, that'll do.
Well, also credit to Old Brighton. Their senior women's team won the premiership. Their under-19s team has won the premiership. and they're a chance to win the senior men's premiership as well. So Old Brighton and Old Scotch at the moment.
Embarrassment of riches.
The two most successful teams going around right now will meet on Friday to decide, I guess, in a way, who is the best team of 2025. Well, let's talk some VAFA news. There's always plenty around the traps at this time of the year on For the Love of the Game, and bringing in our VAFA news hound who's done a super job for us all year long. It's News Limited's Braden May. Braden, thanks so much for your time.
Hey guys, how are we? Grand final week, very exciting.
It's been a fantastic month of footy, hasn't it? And the preliminary final on the weekend between Zabs and Scotch was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, it was an awesome game of footy. Credit to the commentary team with Paddy, who's in there. Obviously, it was one that could have gone either way, and just matter of moments, wasn't it? It's amazing that Old Scotch are alive when you think about where they were. Now they're 4 quarters away from going back to back. It just shows how close this competition has been.
Thank you, Braden. The check's in the mail, mate. Let's go around the competition with some news. We'll start first with some coaching changes. I'll lead us off here. So Old Ivanhoe's Jared Geeshan, after 8 years in the chief seat at Chelsworth Park, he has stepped away as coach. He announced it over the weekend. They were a win away in September from elevating themselves to top flight footy for 2026. Old Ivanhoe, it wasn't to be. Congratulations to Jared on what he's been able to do for that footy club over a long period of time. He's been brilliant to speak to over the last couple of years on this podcast and through the week as I do my Premier B rounds. So all the best for Jared and his young family as they explore what's next. But Braden, as I understand, there are a few other coaching movements to speak about.
Yeah, it's that time of year, isn't it, where playing lists and coaching lists and everything's getting in shape. The first one that I want to talk about was Emily Avery up at Kew, the Premier Women's coach. She's come through as their reserve coach and into the senior side, and she's actually stepping away to move up north to the Gold Coast, where she'll take on the head of female pathways role with the Gold Coast Academy. So that's an awesome advertisement.
Yeah, what a fantastic... Congratulations to Emily. That's not only wonderful for her and for Kew Footy Club, but for the VAFA generally. What a great feather in the cap.
Yeah, exactly right. It just goes to show, especially in the VAFA and anywhere, that it's good to see AFL clubs looking locally, because at the end of the day, that's where you're getting your talent from. They're developing these players. It's where you get the best from, best coaches, best administrators, and at the end of the day, they've got one, and it's going to be really exciting to see what she can do up there. Obviously, help build Kew into a bit of a contender in a competition that had been dominated by two sides in St Kevin's and Old Scotch for so long.
It is the time of the year after final series where players and coaches sit down and assess whether or not they're going to push on. And there's no better way to go out than winning a premiership, as they did at St Mary's Salesian. Braden, Clay Tate has hung up the boots and hung up the clipboard.
Yeah, 3 years in charge, and he got the club where he wanted. He took over when they were relegated, and I think he just managed to stabilise them the last 2 years. And then this year they took that massive step forward where internally they spoke about let's play finals, and stranger things have happened, but they probably went further than they had anticipated. They're up into Division 1, and he leaves a great place for Heath Chipperfield, a 3-time best and fairest at the club, to take on the role. So they've made that transition really smoothly, and I imagine he doesn't change too much in terms of what they've done, and it's a tried and tested, and he knows the playing group, and I think that's a really important thing, especially when you go up the division. You know what you've got, and you might know what you need to bring in just to top up and add some depth and create pressure on places.
Looking ahead to the Premier Men's Grand Final this Friday, Old Brighton taking on Old Scotch for a second straight year. That game coming away live on vafa.com.au, on Community TV, and also on the SEN app. What a fascinating matchup, Braden, for a number of different reasons. One, just from a pure footy perspective, two fantastic teams going at it, and then you work all the other storylines into it. Brighton yet to win a senior flag, the disappointment of last year. Old Scotch going for back-to-backs for the first time since 1934. No matter who wins, there's going to be wonderful stories either way.
Yeah, exactly right. It's going to be a high-quality game of footy, this. And I think the one man that a lot of footballers that have ever played, never won a flag, that would be jealous of is Will Lewis from Old Brighton. He could win 2 flags in 5 days, which I'm very jealous of. I've never won one. Like, he could share it around a little bit, couldn't he?
He really could. He's had such a great year, though, Will Lewis. I'm so thrilled for him. He's really established himself, Matty, as a quality player at VFL level. Kicked, I think, 38 goals or something in that vicinity. And he's carried that forward line at times when they haven't had others around him. And he's now getting the recognition that he deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, leading goal kicker in a premiership campaign at VFL level is no mean feat, and averaging 5 goals a game for Old Brighton this season. So no doubt and we assume he'll get named on Grand Final day, he's going to prove an almighty presence in that forward line for the Tunners.
Yeah, looking forward to asking Harry Hill a few questions about how Will Lewis will go on Friday afternoon. Jace, you've called him a bit this year, especially over in September. What kind of role do you imagine him playing, considering he's got to fit in next to another VFL superstar in Joey Campilli?
Yeah, I think the two of them can work together pretty well. Will's very much your old-style lead mark type forward, who is capable also of, picking up a ball off the deck and snapping a goal in traffic. But I think, Braden, I'm sure you'll agree, Campilli and Lewis, they're both mobile. They can both patrol the forward 50 without getting in each other's way and actually just separate the Scotch defence a little bit, which is what you need to do, because if you allow Scotch to set up behind the football, they're just so solid.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think we've seen Campilli, when we saw him break through the ranks last year, he can really get a high up the ground. He can get up to a half-back flank and just really be that link man. And he's one of the most underrated positions in footy at the moment. But one man I'm looking forward to seeing, I'm thrilled that Harry Hill is going to be out there. He was the hard luck story for Old Brighton last year, and he is obviously a star of the competition. We actually did a top local footballers rankings of 2025 last week on the Herald Sun website, and Harry came in at number 1. So just from that point of view, I hope he enjoys the day, and who knows what might happen, and create a bit of history.
So you had him ranked number 1 amongst all local footballers?
Yes, every metro footballer in Melbourne. We had Harry Hill at number 1. He's just that good.
Yeah, wow, that's a fantastic feather in his hat. Who wins and why?
Oh, it's one of those things, isn't it? I think Old Brighton, they've been the best team all year, but again, they've had the week off. They've played probably one game in 4 weeks with rough math. I'm sorry if that's wrong. And then Old Scotch, they've won 2 on the trot really well. They've won tight contests. I just hope it goes down to the final minute again, and it just goes either way. Nothing controversial. Moment of magic that we can speak about for years to come.
It's going to be a fantastic day. We had about 4,000 odd people at Grand Final Day last year. The weather holds. We could be blowing that crowd out of the water, because the sequel could be even better than the original, Braden. We're looking forward to it. Thanks for your time, mate. We look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Stay up to date with all the latest from the Victorian Amateur Football Association with the brand new VAFA app. Stay connected with live scores, fixtures, stats and news from across the Victorian Amateur Football Association right at your fingertips. Download the VAFA app today from the App Store or Google Play and never miss a moment.
This is For the Love of the Game, and we look ahead to the final match day of season 2025 in the VAFA. And it is William Buck Premier Men's Reserves and Seniors Grand Final Day. The Reserves Grand Final, which will be live streamed on vafa.com.au between Old Zavs and St Kevin's. That game will kick off at 11:30 on Friday at Elstonwick Park, followed by at 2:30 with our coverage starting at 2 o'clock. Old Brighton and Old Scotch going at it for a second straight year. Last year, it was Old Brighton finishing on top of the ladder, winning straight through to the grand final in a thrilling second semi over St Kevin's. Old Scotch took the long route, and then on grand final day, just finished the stronger, had a fantastic second half and ran out 3 goal winners. This year, there's some parallels. Old Brighton again finished as minor premiers, again won the second semi-final, and again Old Scotch have seemingly come from the dead and just survived. They've been the cockroaches of Premier Men's this year. You have not been able to kill them. Old Scotch, they are still alive. The Cardinals now 4 quarters away from potentially winning back-to-back flags. What a story that would be.
It would be remarkable. I love this story for Mark Nat, the coach of Old Scotch and his team, because they've pretty much experienced everything that VAFA's top flight has to offer. They've been discussing relegation. They've been dealing with players going away and playing for VFL clubs and being hurt. They've had to stave off the relegation element, bring back all these players. Then they've had to focus on playing all these prelimination finals to make finals. Then they have to survive in the first semi. They beat St Kevin's. Then they have to make the grand final, and now they have another look at Old Brighton. This is going to be a supreme game of footy. 22 degrees, I believe, is the forecast at this stage, Jason Bennett. We might have some rain as well, so fingers crossed that it's a nice day for football. Matthew Donald at Elstonwick Park, the home of amateur footy.
Absolutely. And then on the flip side, you've got Old Brighton as well, who have never won a top flight premiership before, and they came so close last year, and they've been right up there the last few years, and they've given themselves opportunities and have fallen short, and they'll have to make good on one eventually, and they'll be hoping that Friday is the day where it finally turns for them.
Third grand final in 4 years for Old Brighton. Can they finally win the big one? Well, one man who wasn't there last year is their skipper, Harry Hill. One of the best players in the competition, if not the best player in the competition. He missed last season with concussion. He is back out there in 2025. Harry joins us now, and For the Love of the Game. Harry, thanks for your time.
No worries, Jace. Thanks for having me, guys.
Third grand final in 4 years for you. Fortunately, you're back in the mix after concussion ruled you out last year. A very different September for you this time around.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's much more exciting, this one. I certainly prefer to be on this side of it rather than everything that unfolded last year. But yeah, super grateful, obviously, to get the opportunity again. Always put in a lot of work. So to be back and playing on that last Friday in September is really nice.
The difference between the two seasons. I mean, the minor premiers in both, straight through on second semi-final day, through to the grand final. How have you compared this season to last?
Oh, I think I sort of talk about it a lot with the coaches, but, second year under Soupy and that sort of coaching group, I just feel like we've sort of really evolved in terms of our game style. We've sort of been able to find and breed a few new players as well. And I think it's been a lot easier for guys to step in, know what their roles are and be able to execute that. So, I think last year we played about 35 or 36 players. We're close to mid-40s this year. So, looking at it from that side of things, we've had a lot more guys, given the opportunity at senior level and, to be minor premiers again and then get through to the grand final is something we're really proud of as a footy club.
Harry, mate, I'm sure that you had a keen eye on the preliminary final between Scotch and Xavier, and I'm pretty sure you'd be happy to see that it went to the last kick of the game just about, and both those squads beat the living daylights out of each other over 4 quarters of excellent footy. What are you expecting from Old Scotch?
Yeah, it was a cracking game, wasn't it? We were split. We had our reserves at 11:30 in the morning and then our under-19s at 5 o'clock. So we couldn't really escape Elsternwick Park on Saturday. But it was a cracking prelim. Probably one of the best games of local footy I've certainly watched. You sort of never really know. Once you saw one team get a couple goals ahead, you thought, oh, that could be it. And then credit to the opposition, they responded, and vice versa. So, it was an unbelievable contest. Obviously, feel for the Zabs boys. They put in such a great effort and had such a remarkable season. Obviously led by Stav and Laney. I thought they were awesome. And credit to Scotch. They could have rolled over, but they didn't. They kept fighting and found a way to win. So. Yeah, it was a cracking contest and shapes up for another great game on Friday.
Harry, congratulations on making the grand final, you and your boys this year. Now, you've played Scotch a couple of times earlier in the season. Your record against them is pretty good, I have to say. What do you take away from those 2 games that you've played against Scotch? What have you learnt about them this season as you head into this grand final on Friday?
Yeah, well, I think we know where their strengths are. They're a really great uncontested footy team. Obviously got some great ball winners around the footy, but the way they sort of spread and use the ground and use their skills is really something that's a strength of theirs. So I found that, we've done pretty well at Brighton Beach Oval over the last couple of years, where I feel like our pressure game really lifts and we can really hunt the opposition. And similar to that at Camberwell, both teams were probably a little bit undermanned that day when we played them the second time around. But, it was really pleasing when we were tested a few times in that game that we were able to respond and get away with a couple of wins.
The mental side of it, Harry, third grand final in 4 years, facing the same opposition you fell to last year. Have you and Marcel addressed that this week? Is it something that you guys talk about as a group, or do you just move on?
It's something we addressed. We sort of discussed it over the weekend. We reflected on last year and what happened and, individually where we think, some improvements can be had or how our mindset will change or our approach will change going into this year. So that's definitely been addressed. But I think more importantly, the biggest thing is just having the belief, that we're good enough to be back here again. We've done the work. Really just enjoy the opportunity. You don't know when they're going to come around again to playing grand finals. They're very hard to get to, as we know. So we've just got to really appreciate the opportunity that we've got ahead of us.
Harry, it's a pretty rare thing when you can bring in a bloke like Will Lewis and put him into a grand final squad after he's won a grand final for Footscray off a 5-day break on the Sunday. It's official that he's playing in this game of footy. Paul Amy wrote up a nice piece on him, which you can read on the Herald Sun website. Tell me a little bit about Will Lewis and what role you expect he might play at the weekend.
Yeah, he's had a super year, Will. I'm super happy for him to get the reward on the weekend for Footscray. He's been toiling away with the doggies for a few years, and he's put together he would say his most consistent year across, Footscray, and then when he's come back and played with us. So we're super excited to have him. We've got a fit Will Lewis this year. Unfortunately, obviously he was hampered a bit last year coming off the broken foot. So, we're really excited to see what he can do. He knows what he brings to us. He really straightens us up. He structures us up. He'll probably give Felix a bit of a chop out in the ruck potentially. So we'll just get him involved as much as we can. But, we know he'll make for a difficult matchup, whoever gets on him. And he really sort of frees up our other forwards, which is exciting.
Final message to the team this week. What's the last thing you're going to say to them when you run out?
I don't want to reveal too much. I actually try not to think about it, to be honest. I'm trying to trying to keep myself as busy as possible and then get through and really soak in the whole day. But like I was saying before, there's a huge amount of belief amongst the group that we've done the work and we're capable and ready. And I think we go out with that mindset of just believing in ourselves and also enjoying it. It's a special day. It's a special opportunity. So hopefully we can go out there, make the most of it, and do everyone involved in the footy club and supporters and families proud.
Harry, thanks for your time. All the best for Friday. It's going to be a fantastic game. We wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
So that's the Brighton side of the equation. Let's talk Old Scotch, and they arrive on grand final day with some great momentum. They've won 5 on the bounce, including that unbelievable preliminary final win over the weekend we talked about earlier in the show. Joining us is their skipper, Andy Gelbart. Andy, thanks for your time.
G'day, guys. Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
What an incredible run this has been in the back end of the season. Almost 5, effectively, elimination finals in a row.
It has, yeah. It's been a pretty remarkable journey and a great one to ride, to be totally honest. It's some of these young boys just have so much energy. They don't quite know when to quit, which is nice to be on the same side as them.
Andy, congratulations on qualifying through for the grand final. Before we look ahead to that one, I want to reflect on this crazy game that happened at the weekend. Now, for someone who's played and captained in premierships before, where does that game rank in your career?
That would certainly have to be one of the highlights, if I do say so myself. I've been lucky enough to be a part of a couple of really great games in my career, but that was certainly up there just in terms of overall competitiveness. Xavier are a great side. They play some really good footy and led by, Campbell Lane and Stavro, just 2 absolute beasts. But yeah, that was pretty good to pinch the win right at the very end there. Jones is an absolute superstar, isn't he?
He's a gun. Young Angus Jones, really enjoyed watching him do his finest work on preliminary final day.
Yeah.
Andy, congratulations on the run so far. You look at a team that's come outside the top 2 into the grand final and you think it looks fairly unlikely, but you're in the strange position of actually having it done at the year previous. What is the learning, I suppose, that you've had from last year that's serving you well this time around?
It's an interesting thought, to be totally honest. Last year, there was probably a little bit more nervous energy around it. We're not quite sure how it was going to go down. We've got to play off a 6-day break, and obviously Brighton are a great side and going to be hard to beat. But this year, we come in as total underdogs, and we love that mantra. There's really no pressure on us at all. We just go out there and try our best, and if we can knock them off, we'll do so. But yeah, we've done it before, so we've got full faith in our capabilities, and yeah, we're pretty excited for the challenge ahead.
How's the team different, better, worse than last year in certain areas? Are there particular areas you feel like you've improved, particular areas you've needed to develop?
It's certainly different. We gained and lost a couple of guys. Probably most notably, we lost Ryan Valentine to Coburg this year. Full forward, he got best on ground in the grand final last year. But in doing so, it opens up the door for somebody else and other people. And I think the changes that we've been able to make this year have suited us, particularly in the back end of the year. We've got quite a fast, nippy forward line. A couple of the big guys, including Will Clark, have gone and got themselves really fit and are hard to play against. So we're very, very happy and content with the side that we've got in this week and for the last couple of weeks. And we think that if we bring it on the day, we'll be hard to beat.
Internally, Andy, have you lent much into the fact that you did this last year, or is it a mentality of new year, new day, new circumstances?
It's probably not something we've talked about too much, to be honest. There's still very much that nervous energy of it's not, you're not home until you're home. So you can't count your chickens before they hatch. And we know that there's a process to take place before any result sort of comes our way. And equally, Brighton are a really good side and have been very competitive and hard to beat for anyone throughout the course of the year. So it's going to take absolutely everything for us to do so. But no, we're confident in our ability, and we have been down this path before. So we think come game day, we'll be ready to rock and roll.
Why and where are Brighton so good, Andy?
In terms of on game day?
Yeah. What makes them so good? What are you going to have to negate of theirs? What are you going to have to take away of theirs to win the game?
Well, I think they come out of the stoppages unbelievably well, and they just get runners and they link up well and then pump it in their forward line. And probably the last couple of times we've played them, they have played a forward half game, and when the ball sits in their forward half for the majority of the game, they inevitably end up scoring. They've got obviously a couple of very good players led by their skipper Harry Hill and Big Tommy Fish in there. But yeah, they're just a good side, well drilled, well rehearsed, and I think they'll take some beating.
You speak about Tom Fisher, Andy. You two have, I'd say, exchanged phone numbers on a few physical occasions over the last couple of years. Are you looking forward to coming up against your old sparring partner again on Grand Final Day?
I am, mate. I am. He's an absolute unit. He certainly knows how to find the footy in. I'm happy to play on him, and I'm sure he's happy to play on me. We go head to head often throughout the season, but it's always a good battle, and I'm sure he'd say the same. It's nothing but love after the game. Certainly respect and admire the way he goes about his footy, and I'm sure if we were on the same team, we'd probably be good mates. But unfortunately, we're on the opposite team, and we're going to have to go head to head and fight this one tooth and nail. I'm
looking forward to watching that play out, mate. A last one on Angus Jones, 8 goals across 2 finals, the game winner in the prelim. How's he handling the newfound fame?
Mate, interestingly, you probably wouldn't believe me if I told you, but this kid has been an absolute superstar since he joined the footy club. He's always had a remarkable amount of talent. And you watch him at training kick goals from the boundary off, do torpedoes from 60 metres out, and sometimes you wonder how this little kid can pull some of the tricks that he does. But he just loves footy, and he loves being a competitive beast, and in the last couple of weeks, he's shown us what he can really do, and September is his time to shine. So I hope Brighton have got someone good enough to go with him, because he is a hard man to stop. I've certainly trained on him a couple of times, and I can't go near him. He's too fast for me. He's too good in the air. He's too agile. So, yeah, good luck to him.
What are you anticipating, the 2 or 3 bullet points that Natty will put on the whiteboard on Friday?
He will say that we probably just have to be true to ourselves and play our game. He'll say that it's important to be physical at the contest and make sure we own both the inside and the outside footy.
Just one final one from me, Andy. Obviously, the final message that you give to the boys is going to be rather important. Have you mapped out what you're going to say yet, or is it going to come to you in the moment? How are you preparing for that final message?
That one I can't share, to be honest. I like to think of a few things pre-game, but if something comes over me in the moment, then that's also okay. We tend to keep it pretty lighthearted before the game. Nothing too serious, especially in the position we're in. We're the underdogs, so it's going to be nice, joyful experience for everyone involved, but we'll be ready.
We asked Harry Hill the same question, and he said exactly the same thing. Interesting. Good luck, Andy. We're looking forward to it, mate. Should be a fantastic contest. All the best for the day, and we appreciate your time.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
So we've heard from both the grand final captains. Let's hear from VAFA Media expert Daniel Ward, who joins us to preview the grand final. G'day, Wardy.
G'day, boys. Interesting title, media expert, but I'll take it. How are you?
Well, that's it, mate. As you've very quickly learned over the last few weeks, when you sit in the media box, you're never wrong.
No, that's it. There's no wins and losses up there. You can say what you want and no repercussions.
Have you enjoyed watching the footy through a different lens in recent weeks? It's been a great final series.
Yeah, I have. It's been great the last couple of weeks, and getting a different lens at it, and last week in particular, having Petchy and Hugo having a crack at each other was good as well. So I got a good laugh at that, which has been great.
What did you make of the game, the prelim final? Where did it sit for you in terms of VAFA games you've seen in recent times?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. I thought I made the comment that whoever was going to lose was going to be stiff, and I just thought the standard of the footy was fantastic, and ebbs and flowed a fair bit, and looked like Scotch were gone there at the end, but brave to kick the last 2 goals in whatever it was, a minute or whatever it was, and into a grand final. So I thought the game was fantastic.
Wardy, we just got off the phone with Andy Gelbart, the skipper of the Cards, and he made reference a few times to being underdogs and coming in pretty much with no expectations. Not quite saying it's a free swing, but certainly indicating that they're freed up from where they've come on the ladder. Would you agree with his assessment? Do you think Scotch are big underdogs here?
Yeah, I think footy clubs and coaches can put a spin on whatever they think's going to help them. But I'd agree with that. You look at this week, and they'd be happy with their position. Scotch have been the underdog, I'd say, and trying to pour the pressure on Old Brighton. Obviously, Old Brighton were there last year and come up short, and they've been the best team all year. So Scotch going from where they were 5-6 weeks ago to where they currently sit in the grand final is a great effort. But they've got a free swing at it, and we'll see what happens on Friday.
Let's start with things through a Brighton lens, Wardy. Obviously, Marcel and the coaching staff will be pretty pleased with the preparation, and things have gone reasonably smoothly. They've progressed straight through second semi-final. Their 4 more years been excellent. What are the keys to the game from a Brighton perspective, do you think?
I think it's just executing. Like I said, they've been the best team all year, but it doesn't matter if you don't execute on the day. So, injury-wise, obviously lost Johnstrom last week. Sam Flockhart and Benny here early in the year to knees. But other than that, their group's pretty healthy. So they'll be pretty comfortable where they sit at the moment. And, execution's a big thing on the day. Probably more technically, it's how they deliver it to their forwards. I see Scotch's weapon, if you like, is their back 6 or 7. So how Brighton actually move the footy forward, I think they'll have an ascendancy throughout the midfield with Flockhart, Hill and Fisher and the like. So ball use going forward, crucial for Brighton, I'd say, for this week.
Yeah, and then sort of looking down at the other end of the ground for Scotch at least. Then Dan, we saw this in full effect of the semi-final against St Kevin's a couple of weeks ago. The back line, the intercepting, were particularly the likes of Charlie Cormack, who was supreme in that first final that we worked together. Their ability to be able to win the ball back and cut off those attacking chains, that's going to be crucial as well on Friday.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, they actually start their counter-attack a fair bit from defensive 50. So, the likes of Cormac are really good at coming off and impacting. And, so whether you go through Cormac's man or whether you have someone that's accountable for him as a forward, he's that good a player, I think, and he's in fantastic form at the moment. He'd be top 2 or 3 in the comp, I would say, for the form that he's in. So that would be something that Brighton would need to look at, I think, because, like I said, that creates their counter-attack. So really important to use their forwards the right way, lower their eyes and hit up some forwards.
And then just on the topic of the back line once again there, Dan, we saw Reece Galvin in the first semi-final. He was excellent. Looking very likely that he won't be available for the grand final due to that hamstring injury. So how does Scotch rearrange their backline now, particularly with Will Lewis coming back for the Tunners?
Yeah, good question because, so it looked like Galvin went down with a hamstring and won't play this week. So he had just gone on to McIsaac when that happened. So, at half-time, Natty rearranged things a fair bit and Tarrant went in the ruck and Lawrence went back. So it's a bit of a risk because Lawrence looked a bit sore. So for someone that's sore, you're probably better off playing him forward. So, I'm not sure who they'll bring in, but obviously if Will Lewis plays, they'll need more soldiers down back. So possibly if Doug Lawrence is in a better position body-wise than what he was last week, that he can help him behind the footy.
You touched a little bit earlier, Wardy, on Sam Grant and his form for Old Scotch this year. He's got a big old job with Felix Flockhart in the ruck for the Tunners, who had that massive game in the second semi-final against the Old Zaverians, where he essentially just about won them the game in that final term. That's going to be a really interesting battle. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, obviously Sam's had a big couple of weeks, so I rate Billy Coates really highly in the first week of the finals and did really well. Last week with Spralger going down, then Delaney went on ball and really competed well, and Sam had to dig in at times and looked like he was struggling, whether it was physically or an injury, but finished off the game really well. So yeah, no coincidence that 4 of the top ruckmen are in finals. So and Flockhart's as good as anyone. So yeah, I think Sam would probably look to use his athleticism a little bit, get off Felix where he can. Obviously, Felix really strong overhead, can push forward, so Sam would need to be aware. Sam likes to get back and help out his defenders. He probably just needs to be aware of when Felix pushes forward inside 50 and making sure he helps to defend that when they go inside 450.
Two very different lead-ins for these two teams. Brighton, everything's pretty much gone to plan for them. They've finished on top of the ladder. They've won the second semi-final. They've gone straight through. Scotch have basically had 5 elimination finals in a row, Wardy. It's always a question that's easy to answer in hindsight about which way is the better way of doing it, obviously. But from a Scotch perspective, they'll be leaning on the fact that they're battle-hardened. And from a Brighton perspective, they'll be saying, well, we've had the perfect lead-in.
Yeah, and I haven't really got this right, so I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask. But I thought there was a lot of conjecture about how St. Kevin's rested guys coming into that first week of the finals, and I backed that they would have done the work, and it was an advantage, to go in like they did. That didn't turn out that way. It looked as though Scotch playing week in, week out elimination finals really helped them. So, but there's probably a level to that of where you tip over a little bit. Where you look back after the game and go, yep, they may have reached their peak, or they may have gone 1 week too many. But at the moment, yeah, it's they are looking really battle hardened and up for the fight. So, ideally, if I was to lean one way, I'd look at Brighton, how they're coming in nice and fit and fresh, and players coming back to help in Will Lewis possibly. And yeah, I think I'd prefer to be that, but we'll find out on Friday afternoon.
Wardy, a tip and a margin.
I think Old Brighton, like I just said, they've had the best preparation, been the best team all year. They've just got to play well when the siren goes at 2:30. So I'd say Old Brighton by 15 points. Scotch have been brave the last 5 or 6 weeks, but I think it's there for Old Brighton to hold up the cup.
Wardy, we appreciate your time. We're looking forward to your input on Friday. It promises to be a fantastic game as they run it back. Old Brighton versus Old Scotch. Friday afternoon from 2 p.m. You'll be able to hear the thoughts of Daniel Ward alongside Hugo Higginbotham, Paddy Grindlay and Matthew Donald on vaffa.com.au and KTV, and as well as the SEN app. Thanks, Wardy. Look forward to your company Friday.
No worries, boys. Good to chat.
The VAFA's Night of Nights is just around the corner. Join us at the VAFA Awards Night as we celebrate our league best and fairest winners, induct our newest life members and present the premiership flags. Wednesday, October 8th at the Lakeside Pavilion in Albert Park. Get your tickets now at vaffa.com.au.
The biggest day on the amateur footy calendar is almost upon us, with thousands to descend upon Elstonwick Park for the William Buck Premier Men's Grand Final. Friday, September 26. Get along to VAFA HQ and enjoy your public holiday with some elite suburban footy. Will it be Old Brighton winning their first top-flight premiership at their 4th attempt? Or will Old Scotch go back-to-back for the first time since 1934? Opening bounce 2:30. Tickets are available at the gate. The William Buck Premier Men's Grand Final. Be there as history is made. So, gentlemen, we've heard from both captains, Harry Hill, Andy Gelbart. We've heard from our resident expert, Daniel Ward, who'll be calling the game with you guys on Friday. It is time for your tips. Who wins and why? Paddy, we'll start with you. Talk us through your keys to the game and where you think this game might be won and lost.
Well, over the course of this podcast, I've just been trying to finalise what the Oval might be looking like on Friday afternoon and figure out
green
some
and
key
round.
matchups.
I'll give you the quick tip.
There's a lot of biro all over my page.
Some white paint.
I'll tell you what the story I think that I'm focusing on is a man who's won a premiership already this week that we've spoken about, Will Lewis, and he will, we assume, line up pretty much in the goal square for the Tunners, and who his opponent might be really interests me. I would have said Rhys Galvin. He appeared to have appeared to do a hamstring injury, as we spoke about in the preliminary final. I've heard of 1 week hamstrings. I haven't heard of 6-day hamstrings.
Yeah,
so
it's a huge risk, isn't it?
More likely than not, I would say, having not spoken to anyone down there at Old Scotch, I don't think he'll probably play in the grand final, which then means a few decisions to make. We know that Aidan Frenetic might be available. Angus Simons, I think, will also be available to come in. Neither of those guys are defenders. So there might be some musical chairs, I think, to figure out the matchup, because if Will Lewis isn't a danger in the Tunners forward line, Joey Campili certainly is. He comes in really good form, despite being held goalless in the second semi-final by gun Old Zaverians fullback Alex Trigard. Joey Campili will have his say on grand final day. I am watching where James Tarrant lines up with significant interest. He's played key forward all year, both at VAFA and VFL level when he's played for North Melbourne.
And done it very well.
And done it very, very well. He's kicked, I think he kicked 5 goals in the final quarter against the University Blacks at Camberwell Sports Ground to essentially win the Cardinals the game. But they are going
to be... As it turned out, made the finals.
Correct. Yes.
Off the back of it.
But they're going to be understaffed in the defensive half of the Cards. They're going to be a little bit short on height. James Brady would be their tallest player, but then you're looking at a Charlie Cormack who works best as an interceptor. Jack
you
Brown.
Don't want him playing one-on-one if you can avoid it.
Jack Brown is one of the best defenders of smaller forwards in the competition. I'm just about sure he might have a job with Jamie Hope or maybe Hamish Dick at times. So I reckon there's a chance that James Tarrant starts at fullback on Will Lewis. It'll be just about the only time, I reckon, throughout the course of this season that he's played in that role. He has done it previously in 2024. I reckon he did line up on Will Lewis at Brighton Beach Oval when they lost, I reckon, at the early part of 2024 home and away season.
I think he played a fair bit of footy in defence in 23 as well, didn't he?
He did, and he's also trained at a VFL club in North Melbourne, as a defender before.
He's well capable of doing it. The question, Matty, is do you rob Peter to pay Paul?
And this is it. And this is where the coaches like Mark Nat are going to earn their paychecks, because this is probably the biggest decision he'll have to make all year, because absolutely that's one option that you can go with, where you take James Tarrant out of the forward line, put him down back, or manoeuvre your magnets in some other way, shape or form in order to counter Will Lewis. Or do you look at it in a more positive way and back the likes of Tarrant to just outscore Lewis, leave them in the forward line and back the guys who have done all the hard work all year to get them in the position to do it again on the big stage, rather than risking making too many moves? Just back in what's got you to this point, keep the players in that position and trust that they can get it done on grand final day. It's a big call either way, though.
It's going to be a fantastic tactical battle. Paddy, what do you make of the midfield battle? Two very, very good midfields.
Yeah, as I go through it, I look for some really big bodies I think that Old Brighton has that will ensure that there is space for Harry Hill to operate in, because he's at his most dangerous and most brilliant when he's able to go from the inside to the outside, overlap, and when he's able to hit the scoreboard, the Tunners, they typically win. So the role for Tom Fisher and Fraser Gregson for the inside midfield for the Tunners is going to be crucial in opening up space. Aidan Frenetic didn't play on preliminary final day. He might be coming back into the squad. We don't know that yet, but he will be crucial for Old Scotch, because he's a big body, and he with Andrew Gelbart on the inside, they'll just go to war. For 120 minutes, they'll be beating the ever-loving something I can't say on air out of each other for about 120 minutes of football, and that's going to make things really interesting. But if Harry Hill can get space on the inside midfield and escape to the outside midfield, the Tunners will be better for it, especially when you consider they've got a guy in Kai Dimatina who can cruise by, probably starts on the wing, might get some centre bounce attendances to try and use the ball at his best. But the key thing here is pressure at the source. It's going to be so integral. We know that Old Scotch love to play an intercept game. Charlie Cormack drives it, Jack Brown drives it, and then they get the likes of Brodie Easton and Alex Noblet who like to tee up those little kicks, and Ben Hayes gets involved, Harry Stubbings gets involved, and they can just sort of pop the ball down the ground without having much pressure on it. So the pressure needs to be hot from the Tunners to avoid the Old Scotch intercept game. Conversely, Old Scotch need to make it a little bit of a scrap to avoid Old Brighton going the other way cleanly out the front of stoppage.
They need dirty ball going inside 50.
Correct.
It allows the likes of Cormack to win it back on the intercept and then try to punish them in the other direction. The ruck battle we heard Daniel Ward talk about, that's going to be a fantastic battle. And then up forward, we know Old Scotch have got match winners.
Oh, absolutely, they do. And that's going to be another really important one as well, particularly if they do choose to stick James Tarrant in that forward line and leave him up there, who's been in excellent goal-kicking form. And then as you go smaller, you got Angus Jones, who's been the player of the final series. I saw 8 goals in 2 games. Who saw that coming? And he's now shaping up as a real X-factor on grand final day. He could prove to be the difference.
And then at the other end, you've got a guy like a Jamie Hope who can pop up and kick goals and become a match winner in his own right. It's just going to be a fascinating battle.
I'll tell you what, Angus Jones, he might be running out of space in the closet for skins at this rate. He's gone 2 for 2 at the moment in the final series. Could he go 3 for 3? I think it's an interesting little setup, because if Tarrant starts forward, we've got probably an evenly weighted game of footy at either end. But if he goes back, the Old Brighton forward line and the Old Scotch forward line is quite tall. The other end of the ground, the Old Scotch forward line, the Old Brighton back line is quite small. So we start to develop a little bit of an imbalance, and that's where I think the rucks will be really important. Sam Grant loves to go behind the footy and intercept. He plays for Old Scotch. He was a big V ruckman. His direct opponent, Felix Flockhart, loves to go ahead of the footy and mark inside 50. So he's going to track him down as well. So it'll be the land of the Giants inside 50, potentially for the Tunners, should that eventuate. The key, I think, for Scotch inside 50 is creating space for the likes of Angus Jones, but also for Tom Farrer and Jack Polkinghorne and Jake Tawney to operate. They typically play that half-forward, small-forward role, and they can create goal opportunities, but also repeat stoppages inside 50, which are going to be crucial.
And as well, in terms of the defence for both teams and creating that space and making sure that the entries inside 50 are important. For Old Brighton, they're ranked first in the competition for intercept possessions across the entirety of 2025. So no one in this division is better at winning the ball back for Old Brighton. But when you look at intercept marks, it's quite interesting as well. So Old Brighton are ranked second, only behind Old Scotch. Now, we mentioned Charlie Cormack, so even though there'll be that real lack of lockdown defender that's likely to go to Will Lewis, they're still very good at winning the football back. But that's not just the defenders. That's the pressure that Scotch's midfield put on the opposition, making sure they don't get those clean entries inside 50. So that's going to be really important on a couple of fronts.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting as Wardy flagged. Do they play someone on Charlie Cormack? Do you actually tag Charlie Cormack?
I'm not in the coach's box, but I think you just about have to at this stage because he wins them games of football and he's so important with launching them.
Who gets that job?
Ground. That's a question, isn't it? I think looking through it, as I go through the little 22 that I've drafted up in front of me, I reckon it might be a job for the likes of Travers, maybe, I think, who might go to him across that half-forward role. Just make him accountable in the air, but also try and push him the other way because that's the important part. Tommy Burnell, there are a few options. There's not really a dedicated tag, I reckon, in that front half for the Tunners, and I don't really see them taking away from their own offensive game because they have
someone who can
power.
At least go in the air and then someone who can at least be dangerous enough to have Charlie looking around over his shoulder.
The one I really like, and he didn't play last week, I'm not sure if he'll be available to come back in, is Ben Pryor, who's been a very good goal kicker for the Tunners over the course of the season. He's pretty good at moving when the ball hits the deck. He's very aggressive as well. He might be someone that shapes as a possible defensive forward type who could play a role on Charlie Cormack if he plays.
So Daniel Ward predicted Old Brighton by 15 points. Gentlemen, let's get your tips. Paddy, who wins, by how much, and who's best on?
Well, I'm going to be a bit of a coward here because I got up in front of everyone at the finals lunch and I said, I reckon I can see Old Scotch doing what they did last year and coming from outside the top two and winning the flag. But having watched the intensity of the game on Saturday afternoon, with a 6-day break for Scotch and with Brighton being well rested and bringing back Will Lewis, I can't really find an avenue around the Tunners. I think they're going to win the grand final. I think it's going to be Marcel Bruin holding up the Premiership Cup, and I think they're going to do it by 23 points.
23 points. Who's best on?
Do you want a Jock Nelson? I think Joey Campili will win the Jock Nelson medal.
Matthew Donald.
I mean, I feel like on paper, at least most, if not all, the signs point to Old Brighton on this one. But the game is not played on paper. You're right, Jace, as the old cliche goes. I'm going to go Old Scotch for the fact that they've done it before from this situation. They know how to win premierships. And I think that's something that really does come in handy at this time of year. We saw how they were able to make their way to the grand final and outplay Old Brighton last year. And I think that belief has carried them a great deal so far this September, that they've had to do it the hard way. They've had to sneak into the top four and get in through the back door. They know they can beat Old Brighton at this point in the year. They'll have a couple of factors going against them in terms of player unavailability. I just feel that they've got enough know-how to get it done at this point of the year.
Margin and a best on ground, Jock Nelson medal.
I'm going to go Old Scotch by 8 points. It's going to be very, very close. I don't think this is going to be a comfortable win for either side. And I'm going to back Charlie Cormack to be the key man down back. If Scotch are to win, he's going to have to play out of his skin and maybe win a pair of skins. And I think he'll be the best on ground.
Well, he was so
excellent.
influential. Yeah, last year. Remember, Paddy, just in front of the commentary box, he was just marking everything.
Yeah, and then he hurt himself. I think it was a knee or an ankle that Charlie might have tweaked, and that saw him out for the rest of the game. Another guy to keep your eye on just before we say goodbye, Hamish Dick. Now, he is essentially the kind of player whose finals are built for. He's a half-forward mid. He's so aggressive in the air and at ground level. And I think if the Tunners start getting away a little bit from Old Scotch, he'll be the player that will be able to just make a bit of a gap between the two sides.
Daniel Ward has Old Brighton by 15 points. Paddy Grindlay has Old Brighton by 23 points. Matthew Donald has Old Scotch by 8 points. What a grand final it promises to be. Our coverage kicks off with a live stream of the William Buck Premier Men's Reserves Grand Final between Old Zaverians and St Kevin's from 11:30 on Friday. Then our coverage of the big one kicks off at 2 p.m. Friday. Live on vafa.com.au, on Community TV with our award-winning radio coverage on the SEN app. It will be Old Brighton versus Old Scotch for the 2025 William Buck Premier Men's Premiership. We cannot wait. Enjoy what's going to be an incredible grand final week. Get down to Elstonwick Park. You can book your tickets in advance. Get online via the VAFA website so you skip the queues on Friday. Just go flying straight past the queues. Don't get stuck waiting outside the ground. Book your tickets in advance. Get in here at Elstonwick Park. We had 4,000 odd here last year. It was an incredible atmosphere. It was a wonderful day's footy. Expecting at least that again in 2025. So do yourself a favour. Get online. Book your tickets early. We'll see you Friday. We'll be back here next week for the love of the game. And best of luck to both teams, and may the best team win.